Oklahoma and other states are scrambling to deal with an unprecedented disruption to the global supply chain in the aftermath of COVID-19. It's a situation that has driven up prices, in some cases more than 200%. Steve Shaw spoke to business owners and experts to discover how the supply chain disruption is impacting Oklahomans.
McRoof.us in Edmond is known for quality roof repair and replacement work they do all over the state. But here's the cost of doing business right now.
We're looking at a sheet of oriented strand board, people call it OSB, that we use for decking roofs. I was paying less than $8 a sheet last March. I'm now paying north of $50 a sheet, okay?
McRoof Chief Solutions Officer Scott McCollum says a lack of supply is why prices are so high.
Asphalt Shingle World, the two standard products that we use from a company called Certainteed. Our architectural shingle I was paying $70 a square for. Now I'm paying $88 a square for that architectural shingle.
Professor Ted Washington teaches global supply chain at Oklahoma State's Spears School of Business in Stillwater. Washington says the disruption began when China locked down its major cities in January of last year. It cascaded everywhere from there.
We started having a shortage of workers at the barges, at the export locations on their side, at the import locations on our side, whether east or west coast, right? And so we started to back up there. When we started to back up on barges, now you have a shortage in containers, right? Because typically the way the supply chain works is, hey, get in, unload quickly, get back out, and recycle those containers. Well, if we're not processing them in timely, you start to have it back up.
Washington says the top 10 ports on our east and west coasts have 20 to 30 cargo ships in line to get in right now. Each of those ships hold 8,000 53-foot-long tractor-trailer loads. You do the math. Throw in the fact the professor says the U.S. currently has a truck driver shortage of 40 to 50,000.
And you talk to small businesses and even some large businesses, a part of them are struggling with, do I really raise the price of wages now, knowing that this should be a short-term problem, right? But once you raise that wage, you got to eat that cost from then on. And do you eat it as the business owner that's already been struggling, or do you pass it on? Well, eventually you have to pass it on.
The food supply and prices have also been affected on a daily basis. Public Wholesale Market opened about 2 years ago near Taft Soccer Stadium in Oklahoma City.
We're offering groceries at a deep discounted rate.
Public Wholesale partners with the nonprofit Needs Foundation.
And what this does is all the food that we buy, if it goes a day out of date, we don't throw it away, okay? We end up moving it to the free section, and if somebody comes in and shops and they spend whatever, $20, $30, or $40, we match it with what we call needs notes, and those needs notes are just points that you can use to go get the free food. And then, and then if you don't need the free food, you can give it to anybody on the street.
There was a disruption. But fortunately we've overcome it. We've worked around it to make it fit to what we do, and we're going to continue to do it indefinitely.
When the pandemic hit, Western Industries in South Oklahoma City used state bounce-back funds to crank out more than 1 million face shields. Chief Executive Officer Brandon Quick says they've transitioned back to their bread and butter products like wood pallets and medical supplies. He says the price of lumber right now is up more than 200% over last year.
Fortunately, compared to a lot of companies, we have contracts that allow us to get raw materials. That doesn't mean that they're cheap. So, some of our competitors can't physically get raw material, which has allowed us to go and capture market share from some of these companies that may not have these contracts in place. It is very expensive though. I mean, lumber continues to go up and plywood is up 40% from last month.
Big picture. Professor Washington says big ticket items like new cars and homes are things you should try to avoid buying in the next year if you can.
I expect we'll probably start to see some relief late summer, but it'll be well into the fall before we really get truly back to normal.
We've been told by distributors that we rely on that this situation, as far as the price increases, the availability of product is going to continue beyond the end of this year.
Steve Shaw, the Oklahoma News Report.
McCollum and Professor Washington say locally, February's 100-year ice storm just compounded the raw material shortage.